Who in this country today has built the biggest political bridges across the length and breadth of this country? President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
He has burnt those bridges.
That's your own assertion. Who in
El-Rufai is in jail as we speak.
El-Rufai is not Nigeria, he's just an individual. And
what he did for the president to become president?
See, unless you're saying that if somebody has done you one good turn, then the laws of this country should be suspended.
That's not what I'm saying.
That's it. He's been taken through the judicial process. Okay? So
he's been commissioned for politics.
Well, that's the way you see it.
Why is the president running an insular, Yoruba-centric? Even though when people say that to me, I quickly push back because I know I'm a Yoruba man and I know, it's not so much a Yoruba-centric government, but a Lagos city boy such as yourself. Even though you're not a Lagos person, but you're one of his inner circle. So why is the president stepping up on the modus operandi of President Buhari, running an insular government?
Well, I wouldn't describe this. President Tinubu is not running an insular government. So oftentimes perception is diverse.
Can I help you, Honorable Minister?
No, I know the data you want to bring up.
The commanding heights of the economy.
No, I know. So you see,
Registrar Oloyede left. A Yoruba man replaced him. So in the entirety of Nigeria, nobody.
Okay, so only one person is elected president.
Does the president believe in democracy, multi-party democracy?
Absolutely.
Why are the president's men destroying or destabilizing political parties?
Where is your proof for that?
There's this shadowy group of characters who call themselves incorporated trustees of former legislators. The alter ego of that group is a certain Chijoke or something, Raphael. He's an aide of Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, Chief of Staff to the President. They were the ones that went to court to register this. Don't fail me.
No. Listen. I don't know about that group. I don't know about that.
This is Naija Unfiltered on SYMFONI TV. My name is Olawale Oluwade, and my guest today is veteran journalist and media entrepreneur, Mr. Sunday Dare, former Minister for Youth and Sports, currently Special Advisor to the President on Media and Public Communications. Honorable Minister, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me today.
This is your debut.
Yes, absolutely.
You're welcome.
I had looked forward to it.
Yeah, same here. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Without further ado, let's get right into our conversation.
Right.
There's a renewed Hope media tour going on currently.
Absolutely.
I think you just returned from Enugu when we spoke.
And
Umar here. Okay. Now, and the idea of this tour is to showcase some of the landmark projects of the government.
Absolutely.
Yeah, fantastic. But some are saying that if the government has projects to show in this state, why does the government not have results in the area of insecurity? How do you respond to this?
Well, the challenges and the expectations, put them side by side when it comes to governance, often outweigh each other. So while that is being met, it's important to also showcase where we're having great impact. Of course, work is going on simultaneously on security, infrastructure, agriculture, education. So you don't stop governance because you have a challenge in, for instance, security, because it's a comprehensive approach. And it also speaks to the kind of the governance posturing of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, anchored on renewed hope agenda, of which out of the 8 points there, security is part of it, infrastructure is part of it. And we believe that in 3 years, we've had a president who is able to show progress that is being made in key areas. The trip we're making is covering infrastructural development, health, agriculture, education, and even security. Why do I say that? Some 6 months ago, some of the journalists we took wouldn't have agreed to go with us on a road trip to the southeast.
It was a road trip?
Yes. And we drove through some of the dreaded roads. We moved from Abakaliki by road. We moved into Enugu. From Enugu, we moved to Umuahia. We did the Umuahia-Enugu stretch twice. We headed up to Imo, all by road. Some of the trips at night. This wouldn't have been possible. So when you talk about insecurity, the sense and the fear being created, the perception, which is often divorced from reality in this case, is that the entire country is insecure. Now let's do the mapping clearly. Is it right to say the entire country is insecure? It's not true. If we're looking at 20, 30%, and we're looking at different points, flash points of insecurity, is not justifiable to say Nigeria is insecure. And we went with 51 journalists from TV, radio, television, online, influencers. It was experiential. We drove in buses. We had not maybe 2, 3 policemen in front of the pilot car, and that was it. In my own bus, with Bayo Nanuga and the rest, there was no policeman. Because we had faith that some good effort, and we saw checkpoints, we saw army, we saw points of security along the way, provided by the government. That is what is expected.
I'm glad you mentioned that you had security, because some would say the reason why you were able to do that was because you had security.
But we had very minimal. In all the vehicles, not a single policeman. We just had the pilot car to lead us, to show us the way. And that was it.
Can you honestly say there is any part of Nigeria that is not currently under the siege of criminality in one form or the other?
Well, you see, we have to be careful with words, because then you ask for definitions. When you say Nigeria is under the siege of insecurity, when you talk about a siege, when there's a siege on a city, then that means that the bulk of the people cannot even move from point A to point B. Today, millions of Nigerians have traveled. Millions of Nigerians are on the road moving from point A to point B. Are there flashpoints of insecurity? Are they worrisome that they keep coming up? Absolutely. But to say that we're under a siege, Nigeria is not under the siege of insecurity. But Nigeria is facing security challenges because of Boko Haram, because of ISWAP, because of Lakuras, because of the banditry, the kidnappings that we're seeing. And all of them fall under terrorism. And we see that our forces are pressing hard against them. We see resources being given to us. We see active collaboration with the US, with France, with Turkey. The drones from Turkey will soon come in. We're expecting fighter jets, attack helicopters from Airbus. So, yes, Nigeria is facing security challenges. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has admitted that without any doubt. Is the government worried that we're having these incessant kidnaps? Absolutely. And you see what the state is doing. The movement to create state police, what had lagged behind for like 20 years, in just less than a year, it has moved so quickly. Will that be a final solution? No. But then you must come up with options to solve the problem. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu must take credit for moving the police, the state police thing forward, in spite of the fears, in spite of the pressures. Don't do it. Because what other options do we have? The nearest security unit closest to the civilians is the police force. We need them in their numbers. We need them in locations. We need them with close supervision. And we're having that happen.
The reason why it will seem like not every part of Nigeria, or rather, when we that live in the capitals of all the states, we have this false sense of security that, it's far away.
There are far-flung areas where...
But people who live in the outskirts, people who live in the rural areas, the villages, they bear the brunt of this insecurity. And that's why when I use the word siege, it's not frivolous, because what is going on now? I sat with a professor here, Honorable Minister, yesterday. Katsina State. 60% of Katsina State, as we speak, is under the control of bandits and terrorists. This recent retired Major General that died, was a Katsina.
Right.
So, are we not diminishing the severity of the crisis
No,
we
I
face?
think we're not diminishing the severity, because when you analyze and you audit the response of the state apparatus, starting from the president, who barely does he give a speech or an engagement without talking about insecurity. So it's right in the front burner and the top drawer of the administration. The defense budget is up by 51%, unprecedented. We've seen his visit to Turkey, and if you check why that visit was important, it's largely about security. The Minister of Defense just 2 weeks ago went to sign for the drones. And when it comes to technology and fighting, banditry and kidnapping, the drones, undisputably, you need them. We've seen the directive of Mr. President several months back, since December last year. 15,000 new police recruits, over 25,000 soldiers to be recruited. Every state is to recruit 1,000 forest guards. That is ongoing. Some of these things happen off the radar, but it's gradually. We're building up, the foot soldiers that we need. These policemen will eventually be pushed in. And then the president took that bold decision to say, withdraw the policemen who are with the VIPs. We're looking at in excess of 84,000 of them. The pressure that came on the president, he resisted. Now we're seeing more policemen being assigned to local governments. Eventually they will go to different communities. They're still insufficient. And that's why the president said, let's keep employing until we can have more. So there's no attempt by this government to diminish the siege of the security challenge. But what I hurry to say often is that to try to blame a president who is in situ for Nigeria's insecurity is being clever by half, because there's a history. In time, we have seen this insecurity from one administration to another, about 4. You can do the comparison, but we're not worried about the metrics. What is important is that what is the current administration doing? And it's very evidential. I know we went to the Southeast. And when you talk about insecurity, you talk about the Northwest especially, then your mind goes to the Southeast. So we also decided to take a road trip. And we drove through 5 or 6 villages. We went through Ihalia. We went to Bende, which is where the deputy speaker comes from. We went through a couple of other villages where Iherejika came from. And we drove through those streets, daytime and at night. This was not possible 7 months ago. It also says something, that gradually the security efforts of this administration is becoming effective. They are mopping up those areas. Those that are involved in these attacks and banditry and kidnapping, they're beginning to see the presence and the artillery and the attacks. In the last 2 weeks, in the FCT here, we saw how the FCT command busted one between Abuja and Kaduna. If you watch the handle of the Army High Command, I think on a daily basis now, they give operational briefings. I checked it before I came in. Foiling attacks, releasing those happening. So you keep pressing on. Like I say often, there's no silver bullet when it comes to the question of insecurity. But what the citizens expect is that the presence of mind on the part of the president and the administration, but also the task being given to our theater commanders, the chief of army staff, all of them, and they are being taken to task.
Some have accused the president of sleeping on the ball, or dropping the ball, as it were, sleeping on duty. Because if the president averted his mind the same way he does for politics, re-election politics, but more importantly, tax, revenue collection, the tax regime, he muscled it through the National Assembly. All the opposition, he silenced everybody, just made sure it doesn't turn, and all of that. No. That if he had done that to this issue of state or county policing, why did he drop the ball on this?
No, he didn't drop the ball. In fact, he did not sleep at the switch. Rather, he pressed the switch. Look, we're all journalists, and I also document history. And the first time the debate about state police was rife was about 19 years ago. If you Google, you will see President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as a pioneer advocate of the state police. But we saw that over the years, the argument for state police got degraded because of the fear of the governors turning them into personal militias. But over time, we have not seen clearly that if we face the substance, the issue of insecurity that is creeping on us, the lack of enough policemen in critical areas across the state, has made the argument for state police more superior. Now, the president has a choice to just keep quiet. But he did what he did for the tax regime. He first made the argument publicly, stood very in an uncanny way. Normally, you won't expect the president to say that. I was there when he said in the FEC chamber. I was meeting with a group of leaders. He said, "We need the state police, and I'm going to ask the National Assembly to take it up because that is the route."
What's the federal government's strategic solution to solving this insecurity crisis beyond state policing, creation of, and then
let me come from a global perspective, and the global perspective is that beyond the attacks and the kidnappings that really show that there's insecurity, there's the issue of food insecurity.
Yes, what?
The issue of food.
Yeah. Food, hunger.
Yeah, yes, food insecurity or food security. There's employment security or insecurity. So my approach is that you have this government not looking at just the guns and the whatever and the cutlasses to say there's a food security policy. The SAPZ across 6 zones of the federation, the tractors coming in, the fertilizers subsidized across the length and country. That's some level of, because once the farmers are fully engaged, most of our young ones who could have been easy recruits are busy. There's a value chain that is created that employs a lot of people. And that's critical. Unemployment. Most of our young ones that will have been out on the streets, out of the campuses, you have NELFUND. They can now get their fees paid and also get some extra money every month from government. It keeps them busy. That's another way of fighting is because those that will have served as easy recruits are already being engaged in various spheres. Now, no country easily puts down a policy on the table. Even if they have, they will not expose it to say this is how. But I think what we can glean from the approach of this administration is that looking for strong allies wherever they are found. Because you've seen the president move from the US to France to Turkey. When he went to Turkey, people were like, no, the president was interested. They said, wherever we can find allies to help us to fight terrorism. And just in his speech on June 12th, Democracy Day, he said our democracy will not be worth it if there is insecurity. His very words. So he has been deliberate in seeking out strong allies because the opponents, the terrorists we are confronted with, they're transnational, they're international in nature, and we don't have enough firepower. What you do is you seek, even America seeks alliances. When they went to Iran, and they were seeking bases all over. Now, and I think that has kind of helped, our military in terms of confidence, in terms of supplies and support, in terms of intelligence. And I think that's the way to go.
One of the allegations against the president is that he is disconnected from the everyday grind of Nigerians. Economic situations, insecurity actually, and the reference, take the economic situation for instance. Over 167 million Nigerians are extremely poor. How do you divest that from, morphing into insecurity? You cannot. And then look at the insecurity. The president has not visited. He was in Lagos for 3 weeks. He didn't go to Oyo State. He went to Jos, he stayed at the airport. Is the president not disconnected from the...
The president is not disconnected. And let me start from what is expected of a president. The president has the benefit of his ministers. He has the benefit of his service chiefs and commanders of war. And the president, by law, can delegate. If you audit the president's remarks and speeches in the last 1 year, let's just keep it within that time frame, hardly does he make any public statement or engagement without speaking about insecurity. That's the president that has the presence of mind and is being constantly briefed. Short of him wearing an army uniform and then with magazines around his neck he has sent his service chiefs to these spots. Where he can visit, he has been able to visit that. He has received timely assessment. Okay? When you talk about Jos, he was to go to Jos in the morning. Because we had the Chadian-Nigerian border crash, the leader of Chad, the Chadian leader, flew in to Abuja, to Lagos, to discuss the Chadian crisis, which was another problem for us. It was after that meeting that he came to Jos and spent about an hour in Jos, met with the key stakeholders, because ultimately, security, beyond the kinetic, the non-kinetic is critical. And who are those that provide this non-kinetic? They're the community leaders, the opinion leaders, the union leaders, those that really can speak and build up the consensus that's needed. He met with them. He brought all the leaders to Abuja for a 5-7 hour meeting. That is the president that is at work. He understands that. No, I just made that clarification. I was there. I was born in Jos. I know what is happening in Jos. I was there, sitting right behind him. He spent almost 52 minutes of engagement. And then he got up to speak. And he said, listen, I've heard all of you attentively. We've taken notes. But we have to hurry because in another 10 minutes, darkness is going to fall on this place. But we're going to put down clear markers. And he put down clear markers before he left. He said, we don't want this to happen again. Everybody here has a role to play. All of you come to Abuja for a meeting. Now, you talk about poverty. And the figure I've seen is 130 million, 140 million. It just goes back and forth. And what I often demand is that, can we interrogate the purchasing power parity? Because the global benchmarking is blind to reality of every country. It's important to get to the nitty-gritty. One size does not fit all. And that's what I always ask. Yes, is there poverty in this country? Absolutely. But when you take that data of poverty and you look at our payment platforms, which talks about the volume of money spent at PayPoint and the rest, it shows an increase of over 65% year on. That means the volume, the money being transacted. That means there's an economy, whether formal and informal, that is being sustained because an environment has been created. And you see, the fight against poverty is a daily fight, is a continuum. Helping the vulnerables is continuous. Yes, we have our poverty numbers. Can you check the poverty numbers of India? Can you check the one in America? Can you check one in other countries? But the question again is the government making efforts to make sure that more Nigerians get off that poverty line so that they can be able to afford at least 2 meals a day? Absolutely.
Many would argue on the contrary. Now, the president made a speech on June 12th, just last week, anniversary of the June 12 celebrations.
Yes.
And opposition figures, civil society came out, to lampoon the president.
Expectedly.
Yeah, you would say so, but that the speech was lacking in empathy. It was devoid from reality. It was just, and one of the issues, was that the president didn't evince, that message did not, evoke any sense of hope, even though the president keeps talking about this renewed hope agenda and all of that. Take maternal and infant mortality rates, pretty high, the highest in the world. Out of school children, the needle hasn't moved on that. what, because it still boils down to the issue of poverty.
Right.
Because for as long as we have poverty, we are never going to come out of insecurity.
No government can address all the problems at once.
And that means that the monies the president is giving to governors, why can't we pull this money?
So you see, so let's move that conversation. Let's move the radar to the subnationals. The president has been able to bake a bigger revenue cake.
Yeah.
The subnationals are taking 60% more than they used to earn.
Yes.
They are earning in the trillions now. Now, you move the radar to them because the federal government has responsibilities, the state government, and that is where you find the largest.
That's where the job is.
That's where the job is. Yes. And so the question really is that why are we not having the subnationals put on the hot seat? We've seen the president tell them, governors go and wet the ground. Governors go and take care of the people. Because they have executive powers. President cannot coerce them. On his own part, they're getting the FAC allocations. President can delay it. He can reduce it. He's not doing all of that. So I think what should happen is we should have a citizenship awareness that presses on their governments at the state level, at the local government level. Look at the local government autonomy. Under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we have local governments that were getting 500 million before, now getting 2.5 billion. Yet you want President Tinubu to be responsible for the fact that you don't have certain things in your local government when you are there with your local government chairman. So there's a citizenship role which is weak because it's often easy to play to the gallery and attack the president.
Let me rebut this quickly, what people are saying. That the president is giving that money, these huge sums, to the governors to bribe them, to induce them to support him for second term. No. And they show evidence that now it is safe for you, a spokesperson to the president, to say, oh, the president cannot, he's not a headmaster, he cannot force these guys, but then he can impeach, declare a state of emergency where there is no need for, in Rivers, suspend the governor, suspend the legislature. How do you respond to this?
Well, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu does not need to bribe any governor.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Are you serious?
Yes, I'm serious about it. And it stands on solid ground of performance. You look, like, apart from being a journalist, I'm also an intellectual. And I deal on facts. So I deal with facts and reality. No, let me finish my
just take this together. Yeah. You say the president doesn't need to, but he went to the Supreme Court, the Attorney General went to the Supreme Court on the behalf of the federal government, won a very decisive victory for local government autonomy. Yeah. The governor said no. The president that you and I, Nigerians know, would have wielded the big stick. He did not.
So when he went to Rivers, yes, and he invoked the provisions of the law, that where
there was no need to...
No, it was clear. You see, it's clear. We said where there is an existential stress, you can invoke the state of emergency. It did that. People said, no, the president should have done that. It doesn't have the powers. Let me
in Katsina.
It depends. You see, these decisions are made based on facts and reports presented. No president works in a vacuum. Now, let me fast forward quickly. When you talk about why has he not enforced fully, yes, you have to return to the provisions of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended. The state governors have executive powers. We run a presidential system. The judiciary is there. They have a right. They are right to go to court to challenge that. Makinde and some others went to court. The president is not a military ruler or a dictator. If he goes that route, which he can, they come at him. You see, when you are elected as a Democrat, you are under the hammer of the Constitution. And your right stops where that of others begin. Unless we allow that process to run its full course, there's nothing the president can do. What he has done is walk through that same Constitution, walk through the judiciary to the Supreme Court to get that judgment that is vital and has been recorded for history as something that is a milestone. Now, so is our Constitution the problem? Do people want the president to jettison the Constitution and do what is necessary so that people can be happy and things can be done. No. You see, when we subscribe to democratic norms, when we agree that the three levers of government are important, the executive, judiciary, and the legislature, then we must be willing to pay the price. We must be willing to do the time that is necessary. We must allow, whether it's the governors, whether it's the ordinary citizen, to have the full benefit of the judicial process without the president usurping it.
Many will say the president cherry picks what law.
People suffer from selective. You see, people suffer from selective auditioning or selective
to obey or not to obey. Osun State is a case in point.
But the Osun governor just said that in the past few months that they are almost at the point of resolving the crisis. He said it 4 days ago.
Should that crisis wouldn't have,
you see,
arisen in the first place?
all the parties went to court. The president cannot torpedo that process. That's it. You see, when you go to court, you must be, I don't want to bring in the question of the 80s, but when you go to court and there are litigants, you took yourself to court. It takes time. You must wait. You don't expect the president to now fast track it or torpedo that process. No. President Tinubu is not caught in that kind of a clue.
I know we're referring, but let me just throw this in real quick. The IMF's latest assessment reports that Nigeria has 63% Nigerians living under the poverty line, And of course, people are saying that what Nigeria does, your government does, is distribute rice.
Our government.
Your government distribute rice, to solve problem. Anything, just throw rice. Even though recently we've seen the first lady up it to cars or maybe buses and all of that.
No, but you see, sometimes you must look at the totality of the efforts. It's very convenient to pick a slice because it helps your argument. Yeah. Yes. Was rice given? Yes. Do Nigerians need rice? Absolutely. In other countries where we've had rice. Yeah, it's not a strategy. Because, yes, rice was given. Tractors were given. Subsidized health treatment were given. Conditional cash transfer going on smoothly, given. Why are we isolating just rice? Maybe because that is a commodity. But there are also tangibles and intangibles. And when it comes to health, as we speak, at least 1,000 primary healthcare centers have been invigorated to the extent that at least they have the equipment, they have the medications they need on the shelf. Why are people not talking about that? So rice is being given, but also the health support that is needed is being given. What about the young people? About 1.4 million Nigerians across the length and breadth of this country who are getting funded by NELFUND. Is that not more than rice? Why the fixation on rice? You understand what I'm saying? The point really is this. When a government comes in, you inherit the liabilities and assets of
your
predecessors. And very often we mute the fact that this is a country with an exponential population growth. What is our percentage population growth annually? It's the third highest in the world. I don't know the exact percentage.
Between 3 and 4%, higher than our GDP.
That's it. So you start to do the math. And ordinary Nigerians or people given to sentiments very often do not want to deal with the math and the arithmetic of it. A population of 230 million people. When you benchmark that with our national budget, you know what I'm talking about. So we don't have the budget. You can profess it in words, you want to do this, which is what government aspirations. But unless you have the budget. So what we have, our population, the budget we have is the equivalent of, can only take care of 32% of our population. Where would the resources come from? And then when the government takes loans, people are hard on government. Why are you taking the loans? Also look at the loans we've taken. We built up a reserve, gross reserve of 50.14 billion. And then you start to interrogate, why is that reserve critical? People are saying, oh, why do we need that money? Just bring it in, buy whatever. No, we operate within the global economy. We must borrow. Every country borrows. We must also have some kind of reputation because they look at your balance sheet. That, can we bring in investment into this country? Those investors also look at, oh, these people are comfortable here. And that's why the macroeconomic fundamentals of our economy, in less than 3 years, President Tinubu has turned them from red to amber and eventually to green. That's why we can sit in those halls and talk boldly about it. That's why we've witnessed about 2.5 billion FDI under this president coming into this country. That's why our economic radar is now stable. And I think when you look at the quantum economies, they do a research on global economies. Just 3 months ago, they did one on Nigeria, quantum economies. And they said, if the reforms instituted by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had not come in when it came in, Nigeria was at the point of economic collapse.
You referenced the loans we're taking. There's no arguments.
And you haven't come to those loans. Sorry.
I don't have any problems with our loan stock is actually relative to GDP. It's okay.
Yes.
Way less beyond the threshold. Fantastic.
Yes.
But part of the argument against it is the misallocation, what the loans are being used for. And a case in point, because part of the crisis of governance we have, against this government, apart from out-of-school children, maternal, primary healthcare centers, 85%.
That is being addressed.
Honorable Mr. 85%.
If previous government had dealt with it, we would have been at 85%. We didn't get to 85%.
Hold on,
in 3 years.
85% on no personnel, no doctors or nurses, no equipment. Now, look at the results of that. Now, we're borrowing money to fund the single highest infrastructure development project in Nigeria, the Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway, 15 trillion naira, about $10 billion US. If we borrow money for that, why are we not borrowing money for out-of-school children, for our primary healthcare centers? Which is more important?
Well, this is it. It's also about application of resources. Monies from the national revenue have been used in that direction. Again, this administration has just been in for 3 years.
Did you just say just 3 years?
Yeah, 3 years.
3 years isn't
Some of the problems we are confronting are, you see, you have to first dislodge. You understand? Uproot, recalibrate certain policies. You must understand, why has this policy failed?
Mr. President said, Emiloko, it is my turn.
Yes.
He's been there. He's been eyeing that office forever.
Yeah, but he said, I signed up for this job and
exactly.
I'm going to do it. He said, don't pity me.
Don't feel sorry for me.
Yes.
So why these complaints?
No, there are no complaints. The purpose of this conversation, as a public communicator and a spokesperson, the very essence of this conversation is to be able to provide explanations so that there's an understanding. In governance too, you must also make the citizen understand what you're dealing with. The assumption that government is just sitting over large pots of money, government is not emphatic, government is immune to the problems that are happening, very often is...
That can be correct, actually.
Yeah, that's it. Then I recall very clearly at the Bola Ahmed Tinubu International Conference Center 3 Sundays ago, when we had the result of the presidential primaries, he said clearly in his speech, he said, if you have lost some sleep, I've also lost some sleep. If you have felt some pain, I've also felt the pain. Yes, we came on, we met challenges. We will not give up. We're working to make sure we meet those challenges. You see, part of what you do as a leader, you also sell hope. You also provide explanation. You're also upfront. Because you must also tell the people the truth. It's like going to meet a doctor and you have a cut and he tells you, don't worry, this cut looks beautiful in 2 days. He knows it's going to take 1 year for that. Which do you prefer? He tells you in 2 days and you go away and you're coming back every single day. Or says it's going to take 1 year. And here's the therapy. We have to remove oil subsidy. We have to stabilize the naira. We have to take care of our reserves. We have to build this. We need the infrastructure for a 21st century economy. It gives you that therapy, and it takes time. My point, which is a point the president has been making, that when you move from reforms to recovery, it's often not from a 0 to 100%. It's a process. At the 3-year mark, can we sit down and look at, with clear markers, some progress in certain areas, whether it's 25%, 30%? Absolutely. Do we need scalability? Do we need to accelerate this? Absolutely. And I think the next year, as we move into this next year, for the president, the major concern will be, how do we scale up the support we give to our vulnerables? How do we scale up the number of young people that get NELFUND? How do we scale up the number of our health facilities that are properly equipped for what they need to do? I think that's the challenge of governance.
The president made a very direct, very difficult to misunderstand or misconstrue vow, 2022, early 2023, even before the elections, that if I do not provide electricity in 4 years, don't re-elect me.
That's perhaps the greatest weapon the opponents.
Don't re-elect me. Not only did he just not, he didn't just scratch the surface on electricity provision. The cheek of it, the utter cheek of it, he moved himself, the villa now speaking, he moved it off the national grid and left all of us to our own devices.
No,
how insensitive can the president be?
I think there's
a whopping 10 billion naira spent on that solar grid for the villa.
Globally. And you know, when we do comparisons, people say, why are you comparing Nigeria? But that's what we hurry to do. Everybody does it. And that's the way it should be, because we live in a global village.
We can force that.
Do you know the White House is also an alternative energy?
We cannot compare. They have electricity.
Yeah, but you see, they have electricity that's because their power lines are not outdated.
Yeah, of course.
That's because their transmission lines have been renewed, upgraded over the years. That's because the distribution lines are working perfectly. We're not at that point. We can't run away from the fact that our transmission lines are bad, that they've not been modernized in the last 20, 25 years, that attempts by various governments before President Bola Ahmed Tinubu have fallen short. You can't wish away those challenges. But also, globally, we've seen the campaign for alternative sources of energy, whether it's solar, whether it's the mini-grids and the rest of them. And when it comes to governance, you look at options. It's like agriculture. The greatest input is like the seedlings and fertilizer input. We've seen different kinds of fertilizer. We've seen seedlings coming in. When it comes to agriculture, we look at the best seedlings, we apply them. So why is it different when it comes to power? If there are alternative power sources, why do our homes, because we know we have a problem, and until that problem is solved, you need a temporary solution. We all have inverters in our home. The same thing. Why don't you say, don't even use inverters at all? I'm saying this, that if the government had gone ahead to do the solar panels without concerted efforts to address our power problems, energy problems, then we have an issue. But there is a government that has increased generation from 3,800 kilowatts to over 65,000 at some point. Again, our problem is not...
I don't understand.
At 6,500.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Our problem, that's generation.
No, distribution.
Yeah, distribution. Our problem has always been transmission. That takes it to the last mile. Because I've also gone into the power lines in some of the places, broken down, attacked. Just the other day, I saw a video, on Tuesday. Power lines being caught right in my village, and they arrested them. There's a government that has set up grid asset management company. You know, constantly, within the first 4 months of his administration, he signed the Electricity Act, giving the states, private sector. The question to ask is, why have the state governments and the private sector? Because they were clamoring for, when he started the PPP then, Obasanjo stopped it. And the state said, look, we can generate out. This man waited until he became president to give life to that law. That law is in place. Only about 3 or 4 or 5 states have taken it. Again, what are the states doing with the resources? So when it comes to the issue of power, it's not just the federal government. The states have a role. And the law, the enabling law to make them do that. The resources to help them do that.
If the federal government for 66 years has not solved electricity debacle, states just got the enabling law to do that in just 1 year.
3 years ago.
Okay. Now, let's switch gears to, the president said in that speech he referenced, and I listened to it too live, when he said, if you're losing sleep, I'm losing sleep. Did the president lose sleep over the death of Major General Abubakar?
He did.
You're sure?
I'm sure. Have you read the statement that came out? When we issue the statements, the president clears it. And it's particular, especially when it comes to a disaster, when it comes to deaths, and especially when it comes to this president, whatever. You know, the greatest time I saw the emotion of Mr. President was when General Abubakar died. Here was the chief of army staff who went to the theater of war, who laid down on the bush with guns, motivating his men. The president thought he had found the general. Though he didn't die in battle, but he felt a sense of loss because he was providing the motivation. That's when I saw a president who, for him, the death of a soldier, whether in active combat or otherwise. And what you take from there is that he's a president that knows that the biggest problem this country faces, beyond poverty and the rest, is insecurity, and that he needs to fight that battle and win that battle. So, the statement that he issued, what do you think was the impetus that led to them for them to be able to secure the release of the wife? The president said, look, we can't lose the general and lose his wife. Do what is necessary. Now, it's not in every case that you can have this kind, because if the casualty is too much, they come back to say, look, you know, we're going to lose X number. And the president said, no, I don't want to lose 50 lives. Keep the other options going.
Mr. Dari, you know the president more than most people. You were his chief of staff for 8 years, 7 years. So you know him very well.
I know him to some extent.
You know him very well.
To the extent of the work I had
of course, you know him.
Yeah.
The president has been described as a very aloof, does not even cut it, as is I don't want to say cruel, that it has no empathy. What do you think?
You know, you see, you know, when I read it very often, I laugh. You know, is the narrative of his political opponents, and this might sound simplistic, because, you know, for every narrative out there, there's a counter-narrative. And the counter-narrative is this. Who in this country today has built the biggest political bridges across the length and breadth of this country? President Tinubu.
He has burnt those bridges.
That's your own assertion. Who in
El-Rufai is in jail as we speak.
El-Rufai is not Nigeria, he's just an individual. And
El-Rufai, what he did for the president to become president?
See, unless you're saying that if somebody has done you one good turn, then the laws of this country should be suspended.
That's not what I'm saying.
That's it. He's been taken through the judicial process. Okay? So,
he's been decommissioned from politics.
Well, that's the way you see it. If the judicial process calls you in and you have to answer for what you've done.
Decommissioned from politics.
Again, I say, you don't expect the president to torpedo that process. El-Rufai also said some things. He stood behind the hot mic, spoke to the entire country and the entire world.
But you must. The offense is available. So why is he to be granted?
No, but he's been granted bail.
But as soon as he's granted bail, before he comes out of the court,
has he met the conditions for his bail?
Yes.
No. There's no way he will meet the conditions of his bail, and he will not be granted bail. Again, I don't want to depart from that narrative. When you look at the people the president has built up, empowered across the length and breadth of this country without tribal marks, no leader comes close to that. You also talk about somebody who rose up to become the leading opposition leader, who beyond PDP holding 16 states, built a party that controlled 5 states. You have a president who has built his own party from the scratch. AD, AC, ACN, APC. You have a president who essentially has been recurrent in the political life of this country for over 3 decades. Risen from a senator to a governor, to an opposition leader, now to a president. Who understands the problem of this country. Who was also forged in the crucible of democratic struggle, going into exile and all of that. And you simply want to dismiss that and say, he doesn't care about this country. No, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu cares about this country. Empathizes. Is at home with the issues, the burning issues of the country. And that's why when you sit down carefully in a clinical way and you look at the policies, the initiatives that have come up under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, brand new, we've never witnessed that before, you start to give him some credit. Because you must understand what the problem is before you can bring about solutions to the problem. And we have this president dealing with some of our biggest challenges as a country.
Why is the president running an insular, Yoruba-centric, even though when people say that to me, I quickly push back because I know I'm a Yoruba man and I know, you know, it's not so much a Yoruba-centric government, but a Lagos city boy such as yourself. Even though you're not a Lagos person, but you're one of his inner circle. So why is the president so, stepping up on the modus operandi of President Buhari, running an insular government?
Well, I wouldn't describe it. President Tinubu is not running an insular government. Oftentimes perception is diverse.
Can I help you, Honorable Minister?
No, I know the data you want to bring up.
The commanding heights of the economy.
I know. So you see,
registrar, although he did left,
and the young one. So you must also.
The entirety of Nigeria, nobody.
Okay, so only one person is elected president, and you must give the president the benefit of the doubt to choose the men.
Yeah.
While you are looking at the people being chosen as Yoruba men, he's looking at them as Nigerians who are competent. You can't take that away. What if he decides to say this is the competent person I want to put? That's why one person is president. That's why all of us are first and foremost Nigerians. Before I'm a Yoruba man, I'm a Nigerian. What is my Yorubaness without a Nigerian state? And that's why you elect one president. You invest him with so much powers under the Constitution to decide. The same way the president decides is Mr. A that will do this job. He can also take the decision, we're going to go to war or not. Why don't we question when he says we're going to go to war? So we must give him, you see, we can get bogged down in the metrics of it. But I also know that you must give the president that benefit of the doubt. If it turns out that, we're seeing more people from the Yoruba, whatever, perhaps what we should interrogate is, are these people as Nigerians competent? Do they have the merit for it? We should move that conversation to that level.
Is the president, you said he is a Democrat, right? You believe the president is a Democrat?
Yes.
You believe so?
His feet is set in the wet. Is set in wet cement.
As a Democrat?
As a progressive, is one person I know that's never crossed from one party to another and who has remained in the progressive rank.
Does the president believe in democracy? Multi-party democracy?
Absolutely.
Why are the president's men destroying or destabilizing political parties?
Where's your proof for that?
There's this shadowy group of characters who call themselves incorporated trustees of former legislators. The alter ego of that group is a certain Chijoke or something, Raphael. Is an aide of Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, Chief of Staff to the President. They were the ones that went to court to register this. Don't fail.
No. Listen. I don't know about that group. I don't know about that.
They went to court. Hold on, sir. They went to court to deregister these 5 political parties. And the defendants ran to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal mandated the trial judge, Mr. Peter Alif, to stay action. Right. He came quickly on Monday morning and gave this verdict. Now, mercifully, the appeal court, again, swiftly, on Tuesday, suspended state action on that. Here's where I'm going to. If you say the president believes in democracy and multi-party democracy, why would the president want to be coronated in 2027 rather than having a free, fair, credible contest, as he did in 2023?
So nobody is talking about a coronation.
Well, that's what it looks
like. It looks like that, but that's not it. You can't walk away from the self-inflicted. No. You see the narrative. You see, look. No. You talk about PDP. We know the crisis that engulfed the PDP, and people try to blame the president for it. At the point, they said the president wanted to impose a one-party state, and then we saw NDC registered, ADC registered. We saw other parties registered. That argument died.
No, it didn't die.
Of course. We have other parties registered. Again, it's easy to blame the president, but also we have a process. A court issued, the group you talk about, I don't know about them, and that's the truth.
Why did the Attorney General join himself in that case anyway?
Well, I can't speak for the Attorney General.
Not
But I'm saying that they went to court. Another court judgment has come. Yes. Can we let the process go on?
I'm interested. Nigerians are interested.
And because it's in court, I can't even comment too much about it.
Why is the Attorney General of the Federation, who is the only office, is the only minister inserted in our constitution? Why is he interested? What is his interest in this case of deregistering?
The Attorney General of the Federation, you must also give him the benefit of the doubt, because I don't have the entirety of what the case is about.
This is why people are saying the fingers of the presidency, the fingers of the president is all over.
All right, so let me tell you something. By God's grace, I was once a Minister of Youth and Sports. Yes. And there were policies and programs that came up. And within that space of youth development and sports, I became more like an expert, drawing on expertise and global practices and also the laws of the country. And oftentimes I've had to take decision as a minister, which is expected of you, without recourse to the president, because I will look at the data I have, I will say which protects the interests of the country, and I'll go in that direction without recourse to the president. So, when you talk about the Attorney General, I'm not the Attorney General. I give you the benefit of doubt as a minister. What were the legal issues? What were the precedents, condition precedents before that time, etc., before he moved in? I'm sure if you get him on this seat and you ask him, because it's someone that does not shy away from a legal conversation, he's going to open it up. But I'm limited in that sphere. But I'm giving you the benefit of my own, as a former minister, where I've taken policy decisions on behalf of the Nigerian government when it comes to youth development.
Believing you are
and sports.
In good faith on behalf of the country.
Yes.
But this is in terrible bad taste, definitely.
Well, let
me ask you this as we wind down. The House of Reps, minority caucus in the House of Reps, met yesterday, and they gave the president a warning, very serious warning, that he either sits up, does the job, especially this insecurity, or resigns. How do you respond to that?
Well, he's just playing to the gallery. The president is doing the job. Unless people deliberately suffering from selective perceptions, how do you sit in this country and say the president is doing nothing? Doing something starts from recognizing that you have the challenge of insecurity. Doing something is increasing the defense budget by 51% and taking it to the same House of Representatives for approval. Doing something is changing your service chiefs, changing your IG, just retweaking the military command to make sure you have the effectiveness. When you look at the last change, 2 or 3 of them that came right from the theater of war. They had to have the experience, the theater of war experience. Why do you say the president is doing nothing when we have seen counter-insurgency operations succeed across the length and breadth of our country? Why would you say the president is doing nothing when he has traveled to Turkey and other places? When you see the level, unprecedented level of collaboration between Nigeria and the US, we're seeing what is coming in. We're seeing American servicemen on ground. Why would you say he's doing nothing? Now, if you say he needs to do more, absolutely. But that's also conditioned on the resources we have, the time for the delivery of the weapons and the attack helicopters. That's also dependent on increasing. Imagine if every president had increased our police force by a minimum of 100,000 in the last 15 years. That's 1.6 million. So governance is also what you inherit. And you cannot do it in a quantum. You can't come in and say, let's employ 1 million people. So the president is doing something, and there are clear markers. It's evidential that he's doing something. So that call for him to, sit up. No, the president is on his seat. He's doing what is necessary. He needs the support of the members of the House of Representatives and the National Assembly and that of Nigerians, and their understanding to say this fight is for all of us. And the understanding that someday the country will overcome its security challenges.
When do we have, in 30 seconds, when do we have these students captured in Ogbomoso? When do we have them? When are they coming out?
Well, what I know is that the line of communication has been opened. You know, ordinarily the security people will not put that out in the open. But I know that the efforts are concerted. And I think when even Governor Makinde spoke a few days ago, he gave an insight. And to the point saying, look, I'm even ready to lay down my life. I think the entire country has kind of been on the freeze because of those children and the teachers that are there. But we must also connect what, the other kidnapped victims across the country, and that's similar effort. So Ogbomoso, Oyo is important. What's happening in Niger State and the rest is also important. And I think that the fact that we've not had them free means that government wants to avoid collateral damage, meaning to the minimal level.
It will be remiss of me if I don't ask you, under your watch, Super Eagles did not qualify for Qatar World Cup. Super Eagles is not at the ongoing US, Mexico, Canada World Cup.
Well, under my watch, we got under my watch. Okay, let me finish.
Where did we drop the ball? Three consecutive.
So let me two now. Okay. Under my watch, we got as far as the last point of qualification, and we dropped by 1 point, technical point. Again, I say, just as life is not 100%, sports is not 100%. I did a statement after we did not. When Ghana came here and we had 1-1, we had played a draw. But when you score away, there's an extra point. That technical point, and we went the whole process. Sports not 100%, but I also did say that there are lessons learned. Now, we did not qualify this time again. We saw the efforts put in. And it has to do also with the DNA of our football. Where we have departed from the DNA of our football, these problems come. There are other problems, funding and the rest. But critically, we know that our DNA of our football is building our team collaboratively with home-based and foreign-based players. When you assemble foreign-based players 10 days before a tournament, they come from 10 different coaches, 10 different playing styles. If they're the best player in their team, it takes it. Then we have the campaign plan. West Half and the rest, there's a way our players count. You play, you go and play for your club, you return to the camp. So the blending is a constant blending so that the team builds up into something. And then you look at the fact that we've not had the best coaches. We've not had the best gaffers over time. Now, we're at a point now we've seen a coach who was never given any chance at all. We're seeing the blending. They've gone until the game they lost against Portugal last week, 2-1. They went with a streak of not losing any game. Even Nigerians are saying, look, this is beginning to come alive. When it comes to football success, there are building blocks. You must have a coach. You must build a team around both locals and international. You must have a campaign strategy to make sure you keep them together, you blend them. You must have proper funding. And I think we're getting to that point. Unfortunately, we're not at the current World Cup, but I can show you the Nigerian football is looking up. Our local leagues, the Premier League is looking up. The stadiums are filling up. And I'm sure that when the next World Cup comes, Nigeria will be there.
Fantastic place to anchor, Honorable Minister. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
I'm sure.
Thank you for tackling me. On behalf of Nigerians.
You gave as much as you took. So I'm sure in the next weeks we'll have this over and over because we need to interrogate a lot of issues.
Anytime.
Thank you so much for coming.